Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on all things narcissistic and narcissism. It's a place I hope that gives you education and information to help you navigate the rather treacherous landscape of these difficult antagonistic narcissistic relationships. Today's video is going to take on the issue of the golden child. This video is part of a larger series of family roles that people take in narcissistic family systems. As you hear each of these types, and this series will sort of unfold over a series of weeks. If you identify yourself in any of these types, drop it in the comments. It's always interesting to hear what people's experiences were, and you might even see that as this type series unfolds, more than one of these fits you. But today, we're going to take on the issue of the golden child, and as always, please subscribe. Keeps you in the loop. Also gets you to hear about the other narcissistic family roles. Hit that bell to subscribe. And if you do like this video, give us that like. So let's talk about the golden child. The golden child is actually a type we could also call the crown prince or the crown princess or the heir apparent. Any term that captures their role as the person who can sort of do no wrong, who always gets the benefit of the doubt in the family system. And in that way, they are the literal opposite to the scapegoat. And where the scapegoat can do no right, the golden child can do no wrong, especially if they keep bringing in results. This is the child in the family dynamic who is enabled no matter what they do. The family is often organized around the needs of the golden child, their schedule, their needs, their educational and extracurricular needs, all the needs of that child. The golden child, for example, may be the only one who gets his or her own bedroom, who gets a car when they are of the right age, who gets to go to the better school or a private school or something like that. It can also be a bit of a resource issue, how resources are allocated in a family system. The golden child may go to private school, and the other siblings may go to a local public schools that are less resourced. The golden child may have a college tuition paid for, or money for school made available, or a wedding paid for, while the other children in the family system may not experience the same sort of largesse. Now, the golden child dynamic, like all family role dynamics, can start early and is typically and often, but not always, a function of that child delivering narcissistic supply to the parent, narcissistic parent, often without even knowing it. The child may represent what the parent wants to be, or the parts of the parent that get the parent the most validation. This can include physically resembling the narcissistic parent, being very attractive, being very skilled at something. For example, the child who is a gifted athlete at a young age, a gifted dancer or performer of some kind, being very gifted in school, or having some other odd skill set at which they excel, such as chess or spelling bees, or something else that a child can be good at an early age. The golden child may bring esteem and validation onto the parent through their skills, and then becomes another way for the narcissistic parent to mainline validation. The golden child may be why the parent gets congratulations or oohs and ahs from other people. Wow, what a player you got there. Woo, she's such a beautiful dancer. And that also allows the parent to enact the dreams that maybe they didn't fully achieve. If you've ever seen one of those awful parents on the sidelines at a kid's games, it's so clear that the paunchy, rageful father's athletic dreams never launched, and their golden child is the vessel for their aspirations. Now, another tragic way we can see the golden child paradigm play out is when the child is physically attractive in the way the parent once was or still wants to be. And the child gets celebrated for that attractiveness. And it's almost as though the younger version of the parent is channeled through the child's beauty. Think those beauty pageants with lots of kids in them. Now, being a golden child is not necessarily easy. The scapegoats out there may think it would be an easier role. And yeah, relative to the scapegoat, I can see that it may be. But the golden child does live with many anxieties. The primary fear is that they know they live on a conditional pedestal. If the superlative grades or trophies go away, if the child were to gain weight, or the sweet baby face gives way, or the child simply loses interest in the activity that the parent defines them by, the golden child's life can feel quite tenuous, with the golden child knowing that their regard has been conditional. It can be doubly scary if the child sees that there is a scapegoat in the family system and wonders if that could be their fate if they stop delivering supply through their achievements, their appearance, or whatever it is that's getting their parental notice. There can also be a fair amount of guilt associated with being a golden child. Now, while some golden children really do go on to be world-class jerks and re-perpetuate the family narcissism cycle, some actually feel a profound sense of guilt and grief about being the chosen one, especially if they are fond of their other siblings or protective of their other siblings whom they see are ignored or invisible or scapegoated. It can leave a guilt that dogs the golden child for a lifetime. The golden child often has to encounter an uncomfortable guilt dynamic raised by the narcissistic parent. The parent will often remind the golden child that he or she is so much luckier than the parent, and even while pouring all kinds of resource into the child might keep hearing about how the narcissistic parent is such a victim of circumstance, and the child is so lucky to have such a wonderful parent as them. It can be quite confusing for a child, and as the golden child, it may feel as though their sole job is to do good to keep winning over the narcissistic parent. The golden child experiences this sort of overvaluation by the parents, and it can not only place them at risk for narcissism themselves as an adult, it can also transform them into a person who feels as though they are only valued for what they do instead of who they are, and all of who they are, all holistically, feelings and everything, and just being a whole person. It's a tough way to go through life. Golden children can definitely experience a fall from grace. Because narcissistic family systems are so often triangulated, the narcissistic parent will often turn the kids against each other and even dangle the carrot that the golden child is there to be toppled and perhaps another child in the family system can take the crown. This again creates an ongoing anxiety in the golden child and can also result in antagonism, with the golden child trying to hold on to the safety of the narcissistic regard they receive. Children don't understand narcissism. They just want to be loved, and they want to do everything they can to feel safe in a family system. Now, what about in adulthood? The dynamic of the golden child can remain alive and well. Any of you in narcissistic family systems know that if you are still the golden child, it can be uncomfortable to be placed in that role relative to siblings. It can fuel strife between you and your siblings that you do not even want, and your sibling, and perhaps understandably so, may still be carrying hurt and anger from childhood. Not all golden children, interestingly, however, are golden children on the basis of what they do. Soccer, spelling bees, ballet, that may not be the only reason. Some become golden children by dint of factors that often have cultural relevance, such as gender. In many cultures, tragically, boys are valued much more than girls from birth. And in this way, it is not atypical for an eldest son to be a golden child, and subsequent children, especially daughters, becoming scapegoats or taking other unpleasant family roles. It doesn't matter what kind of person that son is or what he does. The son is golden by dint of his gender. In some cases, though far fewer, the same dynamic can be seen when the child is a daughter, but it literally can come down to something as ridiculous as gender as to why a child becomes the golden child in their family. However, if you were more of the performative golden child in your family, meaning that you were a golden child because you did something that the parent wanted, you learn very early that love is conditional. And that belief can dog a person into adulthood. A golden child then falls into the risk of the same kind of performative love going into adulthood and can get into relationships that are conditional or even transactional. To be a golden child can mean grappling with different emotions, and these will vary from case to case. In some cases, to grapple with a sense of guilt. In others, to have the painful recognition that love was completely conditional. And all of this can be accompanied by anxiety, depression, low self-worth, and even a sense of fragmented identity, knowing that you were a sort of construction or conditional puppet of your parent. However, some golden children do go on to become quite narcissistic themselves. They actually believe their golden child hype and retain the entitlement, privilege, and domination that their role accords them, and roll into adulthood as a world-class jerk, continuing to lord over their siblings and make their lives generally miserable. They may often walk off with the lion's share of a family business or an inheritance. Into adulthood, they may hold on to this role and become an adult bully both within the family system and beyond. The golden child dynamic can also get fueled by circumstantial issues in narcissistic family systems. The narcissistic parent may anoint a golden child that is their own biological child and then scapegoat their stepchildren. And this can sometimes even go vice versa, with stepchildren transformed into golden children and their own biological child receiving less regard or even being scapegoated. So there are other blended family dynamics that may fuel this as well. Is there anything good about being a golden child? Perhaps. I mean, the golden child may benefit in some ways from the additional resource they may have received, better education, that kind of thing. If they remain a golden child into adulthood, they may walk around with maybe a stronger sense of self and of their place in the world, but since there's such a risk that this may often veer into narcissism, more often than not necessarily a good thing. The only happy ending one might see in a golden child dynamic might be if the golden child, who has a fair amount of power in a family system while they are the golden child, breaks the chains of triangulation and advocates for their scapegoated or ignored siblings, or makes alliances with them despite the narcissistic parent's frustration, and then continues that advocacy into adulthood so that the siblings can become and remain friends. Sadly, so often when the golden child is a child, if they do advocate for their other siblings, they may face the dust heap of scapegoathood or invisibility. And a child doesn't always have the circumspection to face that kind of fear down. But it does sometimes happen, and I gotta tell you, it's really lovely to watch the narcissistic parent twitch and twist in the wind while the siblings draw together, despite the narcissistic parent's best attempts at creating estrangement and chaos amongst them. If you were a golden child, you can see that it was a complicated dynamic and actually may have made you more vulnerable to cognitive dissonance than your other siblings. Remember, that tension, that comes from being angry at a narcissistic parent who is conditional and then feeling bad because the parent does so much for you. The scapegoat may have some dissonance, but not likely as much since the parent is so cruel to them. We tend to see more of a trauma-bonded mess for the scapegoat. There is life after golden childhood. You just need to recognize that never in a family should one child be more special, and that all children deserve to be seen and heard in a family system. And in that way, perhaps in a healthy child, every child is the golden child. Unfortunately, in a narcissistic family system, there tends to be that one. And the triangulated parent loves the chaos of having just one crown prince or princess. Again, those of you who are golden children, share your stories. Drop us a comment. Let us know what that was like. I hope this has sort of illuminated that dynamic of the golden child. Whether you were one or had a sibling that was one, you know what this is about. Hope you liked this. If you did, you can give me that thumbs up if you want. Otherwise, please subscribe, join this community, hit that bell, get notifications. We have content coming out regularly and videos in this whole series of family roles, as well as all topics related to narcissism. Thank you. Bye-bye.